So yeah, basically to kick off the actual episode, I do start off with the same boring ass question every time, and that's the simple introduction, man. Who are you? What do you do? And why are we having this conversation?
Awesome. Okay, I my name is Michael. I play music, and I have a couple different projects going on right now. Most people would usually know from I play in a band called Being as an Ocean. It's like a hardcore melodic band from San Diego. And I recently, well, actually not recently, but I've been running a second project. It's like a pop band called Heart of Gold for a couple of years now, and I am having the most fun time ever doing it. So yeah, I run Heart of Gold. I play multi instrumentalist, I guess you could say. I write and record. Um, Everything myself or with my friend Phil. He's a producer, a songwriter friend from LA. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty much it.
Yeah, no, awesome. And that's honestly how I knew of you is from Being as an Ocean. And,
Oh, awesome.
yeah, I've always been super heavy into like pop punk, the hardcore scene, that sort of stuff.
Amazing.
So yeah, seeing your name pop up, I was like, hold on, I know
Oh,
this dude. Like,
hell
let's
yeah.
yeah. So
Oh,
but
that's
no, like I remember the first time I heard Heart of Gold was on like a random release radar on Spotify, how
oh
it does all those little suggestions and whatever.
yeah, yeah.
And I was like, man, this is really dope. And then I started digging into it. And then, again, I found out that it was you. And I'm like, wait, time out. Like, talk about, and this is kind of one of the questions I've got for you. Talk about the difference in styles, right? Like Being as an Ocean compared to Heart of Gold, if you didn't tell people that they're related band wise,
Yeah.
with you being the parent, if you will, uh, like you would never guess. So,
No.
like, what drove this kind of mass divergence over into the pop realm?
Oh, it's really funny. So I grew up. I'm from a small town just outside of Manchester in England, and I grew up between, so my parents separated when I was very little, and my dad was very into like his classic rock. So every weekend it would be Thin Lizzy, Led Zeppelin, Queen, all this incredible stuff. And I was so drawn to just how amazing the vocals were. But then on the other hand, my mother she was big into her 90s pop and R&B. So I don't know if I don't know if they were a UK act or they were a big act. It was a three-piece called Eternal, and it was three or four amazing female vocalists, incredible female vocalists. And I was always drawn to how like the voice itself played an instrument and played a very very key part in creating emotion. And you hear these chord progressions and you hear this stuff which um it like pulls on your heartstrings, but the voice doing something like that was just a whole other world to me. And I was like, oh my god, I'm in love with just vocal driven pop music. And then obviously having pop and then rock, you start to see where they clash, like artists where it's got pop influences but rock vocals, and the
Right.
other way around, like rock music with pop vocals. And that is something I've always since I can even barely remember. um, I was always drawn to that. And then I had the incredible opportunity to join a hardcore band, Being as an Ocean, in about 10 years ago now. And I wanted to introduce, they had a couple songs of singing, but they never had a singer before I
Right.
joined. So I said, hey guys, I would love to introduce some singing into the band because I'm big into clean singing and like almost pop influenced vocals. And they graciously said, yeah, absolutely, let's do it. And so I've always had that real soft spot for anything which is which you could fall under the pop umbrella. And then as I was playing more and more hardcore music and everything, my love for pop was still there, and all these amazing pop artists were coming out. So I just said, I have to do something. I've got like the itch and the urge to just record pop music or write pop music, whether I put it out, whether I give it to somebody else. I'll just whatever, I have to do it. So I did. And the process is, the feeling, god, it was so different than writing a heavy record. And I love writing heavy music because we have so much fun in the studio, and you know, yeah, just a really good time. But the pop music, every little twist and turn and corner we'd take and avenue and discovering new instruments and stuff, you're just like, God, this is so fun. Like, because it's real feel good music. It feels really good for you, um and to be able to create it yourself, and nobody else is, it doesn't exist anywhere else except in this world you have, and it feels incredible. So I was like, I have to focus on this. I have to do something with this music. So yeah, Heart of Gold is obviously very, very different to Being as an Ocean. I remember when I first launched it, um, about 5-6 years ago, the UK magazine Rock Sound, they said, I think the headline was something like, "What the hell is this?" You know, like not in like a negative way, but like, okay, I guess this is the Being as an Ocean side project or whatever. And it was just so funny because it was so unexpected, and I yeah. So it's a very long-winded answer. I'm sorry, but I just, yeah, it's just been
No,
a very exciting process, and yeah, I love that it's kind of shocking to people when they do find out I play in a hardcore band and I write hardcore music, but I'm so pop driven. So
right. Yeah, no, and I love that answer. And it makes me think of like when, and I've seen this on kind of in both directions, when people realized that Corey Taylor is the front
yeah,
man for Slipknot, because Stone Sour is so different
yeah,
than what Slipknot is. And people are like, wait, how is that the same guy? Like
same guy. Yeah,
kind of a similar situation for you. Like, hold on, this heavy band is that writes all this quote unquote angry music and is like super
yeah,
aggressive, but the front man is like this super, not bubblegum pop, but has this polished pop sound too. Like, how the
yeah,
fuck does that work?
exactly. And I love that what's so cool and understanding about this genre, this scene, more so even the rock and hardcore world, um, is the acceptance. You know, it's because everybody who listens to rock music, you get the very, very, very rare occasion where that's it. They won't listen to anything else. You know, they're like, I hate pop, I hate this, I hate that. And those people do exist, and that's fine. They know what they like, and I respect that. But it would be, I feel like a lot of people would be lying if they said, no, that's all I listen to. It's usually like, I love Slipknot, but then they also like City and Color, or they love, they have a soft spot for a Dua Lipa song or a Lady Gaga
Right.
song or something. It's like there's something, so I love how accepting people are. I've not had one person from the Being as an Ocean world say, no, I hate Heart of Gold.
Right.
uh, it's not necessarily their favorite, and they're not crazy about pop music, but they've always been like, it sounds great, I love it, I love what you're doing, and good for you. And that's it, that's all I need.
Yeah.
I've never had anyone who's like, this is so bad, this is so shit, you need to stop doing pop music. It's like, it's very accepting, and I love that. I think it's cool.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think, within the like the hardcore scene, the metal scene, pop punk, whatever, like this quote unquote alternative side of music, I
Mm,
think the reason that they are so accepting of like pop music and these different genres is because, at least for me, I truly don't care if a song is country, pop, EDM, whatever, if it makes me feel something. Like, that's
exactly.
all I care about, is that connection. So I don't give a shit what genre you're from, or, necessarily what it sounds like. If you can hit me in the feels, I'm going to be into it.
Exactly. It's a very good point. Like Corey Taylor, for example, I don't know his personal life, but say for example, he was going through the worst breakup of his life, and it was really hard on him. And he writes a Slipknot song about going through this. Slipknot fans are going to be like, "Oh my God, this is, I love this, so relatable," or something. And then if he was to write the same emotion and the same circumstance, but as a Stone Sour song, or even as a Corey Taylor solo song, acoustic or something, people aren't going to be like, no, actually, that's terrible. They're going to be like, well, it's Corey Taylor. I love Corey Taylor. I love what he does. I love that he is expressing how he feels through like creating a song about it. And I think that's where people are going to go, not just be like, Well, he's saying the same story, which I do relate to, but the fact that it's got like an acoustic guitar or it's got this or keyboard, it's like, nah, I can't. That doesn't make sense, you know. So I think,
No.
yeah, I think especially the rock and metal scene is very understanding and very welcoming of that. So
Yeah, yeah. And I think, there for a while, I'm 37, so I've kind of seen what I think was the peak of it. For a while there was a definite gatekeeping sense in a lot of communities. But I think as time progressed, and maybe COVID helped break it down even faster, but like as time progressed, a lot of people went, who cares? If you
exactly.
if you love what you're doing, I don't give a shit. Like, I'm into it.
Exactly, you know, and it's yeah, I think you're absolutely right. The pandemic gave people time more than they've ever had before because there was no agenda. There was no, I have to go to work, I have to continue the 9 to 5, I have to do, it's like, no, you're stuck at home or whatever the circumstances, and you have nothing but time. And I as far as I'm aware, everybody used that time to like, whether they realize it or not, they grew and they learned something. And it, whether it was, understanding, who cares about what music is written, who cares about what the type of thing that's being created, it's still portraying the same message, we're all in the same boat. And I think, yeah, the pandemic was definitely the almost perfect length of time for people to kind of grow up, it not in a disrespectful way, but grow up from what they were, maybe a mindset that was kind of surrounding them before, especially with music and genres. So yeah, I think it broke
Yeah,
a lot of that gatekeeping. I think it broke that kind of stigma. So yeah.
yeah, I totally agree. And I think, so many jobs transition to like a work from home situation. So
Mhm.
now you're just sitting at home, you have nothing but time to listen to music.
Yeah,
And so like, cool, I hit, shuffle on my favorite artist. Eventually, like with Spotify, eventually that ties into just other songs that sound like
yeah,
it or whatever. And you go, oh, well, this is cool. Like, what else can I get in this rabbit hole of?
exactly.
Um, and like I said, for me, um, man, I don't think I heard it when it first came out, but Over Yourself is the song that I know was the first one for Heart of Gold that I heard. And I just immediately was like, fuck yeah. Like, what, I don't know what this is yet, but like, I'm into this.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I wanted to do, was just like, I wasn't in the game to like shock people or be like, oh, look at this, shove it in their face. It was like, my biggest thing has always been creating an emotion in music or through music. Like, you watch any movie, if you, any movie that is your favorite movie ever, you take away the music, you take away the soundtrack, is it the, are you feeling the same way? You don't think about the soundtrack as a thing. It's like a subconscious thing there. But I spoke about this earlier. My one of my favorite movies is The Goonies, and if you took
Solid.
away, it's the best. It's the best movie. But if you took away the soundtrack or you replaced it with something completely different than what they used, yeah, I would still love the movie, but would I be brave enough to say it's the best movie ever? I don't know. But that music was picked and created and chosen specifically to make you feel something. When they discover the ship in the cave at the very end, when they run and they meet their parents after going missing for however long at the very end, all the music, everything was created because it's, psychologically, that music was created and made, those progressions, everything specifically to invoke emotion. And I think that has always been so important to me. So yeah, I always say when people ask, is Heart of Gold, I specifically wanted it to feel like the soundtrack to life, for whatever you're
Right.
going through, heartache, love, loss, a new a new girlfriend, a new boyfriend, a new this, a new that, losing your job, getting a new job, having, moving house, losing everything, gaining everything, winning the lottery. I just wanted it to be some part of soundtrack to that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
no, and I think that's a perfect way to think about it. Like, obviously, orchestral soundtracks are different, but like
Hmm.
take Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or Harry
Yeah.
Potter's and put in quote unquote new age music, you know, put in a Slipknot song into a
Yeah.
battle scene in Lord of the Rings, and you're going to be like, I don't feel this. This isn't what I
Yeah.
need.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it has to be. It's not just a case of a guy clicking through a soundtrack, a list of music and going, that'll do. It's like, oh, well, these chord progressions are there to do this. You know, they pull on your heartstrings and they make you feel this way. And this is a moment in the movie where, you know, the one of the main character, the hero dies, or somebody gets their heart broken or something. So those songs and those particular parts of pieces of music being so thought out, I think is so incredible. But nobody thinks about it when they're watching the movie. But like
Right.
you said, replace it, take it out, put something else in, you're gonna notice, and you're not gonna feel the same way about what's happening. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think too, like, again, I've been doing music journalism for like 18 years, whatever it's been now. But even aside from that, like I've got such a connection to music, you know, that I think there's obviously probably the vast majority of music fans are like this, where I associate songs just like what you're talking about with this being a soundtrack. Like I
Mm.
associate songs with certain moments in my life. And so like it may be literally last night I was listening to Bayside again,
Yeah.
just out of the blue. And I'm like, man, I remember the first time I heard this song and just immediately went back to that place because there was such a connection to the music.
Yes, exactly, exactly. But you know, it's that's those songs are, you know, you listen to songs from 10, 15, 20 years ago and it takes you back 10, 15, 20 years. Imagine listening to something right now that came out right now, but it can also still take you back to those places.
Right.
But it's, you know, the music wasn't there back when those things happened, but it's almost created that new sense of emotion for, you know, say, I don't know, you experienced your first heartbreak in high school 20 years ago, and you remember listening to Taking Back Sunday at the time. But now it's like, imagine having a song that's came out 2 weeks ago, but as soon as you hear it, as soon as the lyrics, the music, you're instantly taken back to that heartbreak in high school
Yeah.
20 years ago. That's kind of like a cool end game, I think, for Heart of Gold, especially, is to talk about and sing about those types of things and use the music to kind of create that too. So
Yeah, no, and I think at least so far, I think you're pretty much nailing it because they're uh, Midnight in Miami is the next one that again I that hit me. And like when you look at your Spotify numbers, it did okay, but it's not the most outstanding song on Spotify for
it's
you.
not, no, and I it's funny, that was the one when I wrote it with the producer, I was like, I had the best feeling about that song. And I was in a room with some friends and the producer and everything, and they were just like, "Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know if this one's the one." I'm like, "But this is the one that makes me feel like I'm in an '80s movie, and I'm like,
Mhm.
you know, driving on down the strip at sunset or whatever." I said, "Yeah, but I just don't." You know, it needed some time to kind of, you know, fester, I guess. But you know, you're absolutely right. It's a Heart of Gold sound. It's that kind of 80s new wave pop rock influence, with some cool guitar solo stuff in it. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's still a fun song. I love it. But
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, no, and I think for me, I definitely can see the scene that you're talking about, like almost like a Knight Rider, Miami Vice
Miami.
feel to that type of scene.
Yeah,
Um, but like, you know, when I listen to it, it's like it also tells the story. You know, you've got the line in there that it's midnight in Miami, it may be afternoon somewhere else.
yeah,
Send a picture of yourself, and I'm like, man, I know there have been times where I've been away from girlfriends or whatever, and I'm like, I just need to see you. Like, we're
exactly.
not in the same place right now, but I just need to see you.
I just want to see you. I want to know what you're doing, hang out, and just, you know, what are you up to? It's midnight here. It could be a different time, a different place, somewhere else, whatever. But yeah, I miss you. I love you. I want to know what you're doing. So that's yeah, it's kind of what that whole thing was about. So, But the song, weirdly, the name came from what is it? It was a cupcake in Whole Foods, of all things. And I remember seeing this cupcake. It was called the I think it was like the Miami Midnight, or the, you know, it wasn't midnight in Miami, but it was
Right.
words. And I remember thinking, okay, I closed my eyes. I was like, God, imagine midnight in Miami. Miami, you think of the neon lights, you think of, you know, you've got the water on one side, you've got the skyline of the building of downtown on the other, the lights, the neon, the blue, the pink, the orange. And this cupcake, it was like a dark chocolate cupcake with pink and blue sprinkles on it. And just something as simple as that was like, that's a really cool thing, you know. And I picture myself there, but who am I there with? I'm there by myself. Where is everybody else? What are they doing? Okay, it's midnight here, but it's this time somewhere else. I miss this person. I want, you know. So it stemmed from something so simple like that. So.
Yeah. And, you know, being a music fan as long as I have been, that's such a hardcore kid thing. Like this name came from a cupcake, or it has like no
Yeah.
real relevance to the song at the time
At the
until the song develops.
Yeah, it started as a title, and that's usually how it sometimes it happens, is you have a title for a song, or it's a title, or just something that you think sounds cool or might create something, can stem from that one thing. And just the midnight in Miami was like, okay, so if it's midnight in Miami, and so on and so on. So it was a really interesting process from literally looking at a cupcake in Whole Foods. So yeah,
Which
but
is,
I haven't seen it since. I think it must have just been a seasonal thing like a couple of years ago. But
yeah.
yeah,
Well, and now that you've made the song, like you'll never see it again just because of that, you know, like
probably.
because you're
Yeah.
looking for it, it just won't be there.
No, no, no. Every time I'm in Whole Foods and I walk past the sweet treat counter, I'm always like, I wonder if it's coming back for like the summertime or something. But haven't seen it since.
Right. So you just recently dropped Bright Lights.
Yes.
So talk about, you know, because it was kind of a transitional song, right? Like it sounds like Heart of Gold, but it also gives you a little bit of a sense of a slightly different direction with the sonically, you know, side of this. What was this one like for you, you know, when you were putting this together?
This one actually was a co-write with my friend James. He's in a band called Death Havana, and he actually introduced this song into the studio. And I think he must have just, you know, he was aware of the Heart Gold sound, and we were kind of throwing some ideas back and forth and seeing what would stick. And so yeah, this one in particular was I absolutely could not take the full credit for it at all, because um, yeah, it came from mostly from James. So it's a tough one to talk about because of that.
Right.
But yeah, lyrically, it's very, very relatable, and that's what one thing we aim to do is create relatability with lyrics, and write about personal experience, and write about, you know, everything surrounding that, and people can listen to it and be like, you know, oh yeah, I know exactly what that means, that takes me back here, and so on. So but yeah, musically it was it's definitely what I like to call a true Heart of Gold sound. um yeah, I was asked not long ago if I was to introduce Heart of Gold to my friend for the first time, what song should I play? And it's a tough question, because you want to say, you know, oh well, the one with the most numbers online or something. But I
Right.
think Bright Lights and my other song Headache are the two ones in particular where I'm like, this is, you know, lyrically and musically is what I would call a true Heart of Gold sound. It takes every influence that I've ever thrown at the wall, and this is what's stuck. Like the 80s movie soundtrack, and the you know, real personal, heartfelt content lyrically. So yeah, yeah, it's a tough one to talk about just because of James. It's, I would like to say it's his song. So
Yeah, no, and that totally makes sense to me as to why, for me, sonically, it sounded like, I said, it's clearly a Heart of Gold song. Like
yeah,
that's apparent, but there was definitely an element that I'm like, but it's different. There's something else
yeah,
triggering it.
yeah,
And that totally explains it to me that Well, because being a co-write and having a little bit of outside influence into it.
Oh yeah. There's and a lot of artists I've spoken to have said, oh, I don't know if I could ever do a co-write because they like to have, full control of everything. It's like, but I feel like the best work you could ever do sometimes comes from having somebody else in the room with you,
Yeah.
to to direct you, to tell you, okay, maybe do this on the guitar, or maybe try this chord progression, try this, try that. And it might not be something that you're super into to start with, but then you understand why they've thought that way, and you kind of start, really connecting with them, when you write together, and how their process is, and it starts to make sense. And then next thing you know, it's one of the best things that you could have done with that song.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's definitely a process, but it's very fun.
for sure. And I think, especially if you can do it with people that you respect, but also people that you're friends with, or at
Yeah,
least close enough with that you can give each other those feedbacks. Because, you know, the last thing any artist wants to do, any reasonable artist, the last thing that they want to do is be pigeonholed into this is my sound. I have a cookie cutter, this is all it'll ever be. Like, bringing in these others, and especially when it's someone you trust and that are friends with, you can like start to push those boundaries a little bit and go, well,
yeah.
hold on, what if we did go down that road a little bit and just expand on this sound?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. It's a cool, very, very cool process. And I urge anyone struggling with like a song right now, or like creating a piece of art, just step away from it for like a day and have somebody who has done something similar. In my case, it was another musician who writes their own music, come in and be like, oh, you know what, this reminds me of, this band, listen to something by them. And and it's things like that where I would never ever think, you know there's a part in there's a song coming out in a couple days, and there's a part of the chorus where it's like this almost like anthemic, kind of big group vocal thing, and that's not something I'd usually do. And then Phil, the producer, was like, "Oh, I think we should, that kind of reminds me of this band, All Time Low." And I say this band, everyone knows All Time Low, but
Right.
it reminds me of this All Time Low song. And then I'm like, okay, well, which one? And I'll go and I'll listen to it, and the next thing you know, I'm listening to all the All Time Low songs albums, and I'm like, God, this is so cool. This is incredible. Why have I never drawn to this before, like fully? I know All Time Low songs, and I love that band, but some of the kind of hidden gems on an album, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that is some of the best things I've ever heard in my life. And then it inspires me to be like, okay, I'm gonna add this group chant thing at the chorus, and just fun things like that. And yeah, definitely a new set of eyes and a new brain in the room to like influence you to write or try something way out of your comfort zone. I think is key. It's very important, I think. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely agree. And I think, um, speaking on the new song, I got the chance to listen to it on my drive home today.
oh wow.
Um, so, um, but it's Leave Just Yet.
Yeah,
And I totally agree. Like, it wasn't something I was expecting. When you hear this chant kind of thing go on, it's like, oh, well, that was cool. Like,
yeah.
where'd that come from though? Like, what was that? Let's, take it back a second here.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it was not something I would ever do, but it worked so well in these songs that I was being introduced to for the first time. I was like, you know what? Like, why not? Why not throw it into one of mine? So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, very cool.
Yeah. And it's coming up off of the new debut album. First time you're putting together a full collection here.
Yeah.
And that's going to be called Beautiful Dangerous. Let's talk a little bit about, obviously, we don't want to give away any details that you're not allowed to yet. I don't want Jessica to come in here and yell at us for anything. But, kind of, what does this collection mean to you, and kind of what's your feeling on this timing for, okay, it's time to put together a full record and get it out there?
Yeah, it's what's very cool is it was I say it's cool, but it was written and produced in the first um I'd say 6 months of the pandemic. So everything started, well, a lot of lyrically, a lot of it was written over the last few years.
Right.
I have notebooks. I have them right here next to me, actually, where I just will, in the middle of the night, I'll wake up and write something down if I have this idea, or it could be a word, it could be a little stupid drawing, and then I'll come back and look at it and be like, what was I thinking when I wrote, did that? And it just came to a head where I had these ideas for songs for so long, and then everything, the whole world just shut down. Like every door closed. You couldn't go anywhere, you couldn't do anything. I rely heavily on going outside and going to the movies, going out for dinner, even just walking around the shopping center. I love that stuff, and to have that kind of taken away from me, and bookstores in particular and coffee shops, I just couldn't do that anymore. I was like, everything I've ever written over the last like couple of years, I feel like I have to, rework a lot of it now, because I've got a lot more to say now. I have this time, I think. Um, so I spent a good deal of time just going over every note, every scribble, every line, every word that I'd ever written in my journal, and I was like, okay, this is how I feel right now, and this is how I think it's going to be for the next however long, and what this is going to do to me mentally as a creative who relies heavily on going places and doing things for influence. So excuse me, yeah, I started writing. It was just me with an acoustic guitar. It was voice notes on my phone. I have a little keyboard right here, and I'll just like play a note and sing a line. And it started to make me really appreciative of the things that were around before the pandemic, or not the things that were around, because everything is still there, so to speak,
Right.
but you just couldn't enjoy it. I loved going to the bookstore, get a coffee, walk around in the rain. Where there was a point in England where I had to go back to England as well, which was tough, because I was relying heavily on being over here to work and everything. So it just put everything into perspective for me. And the title, Beautiful Dangerous, in particular, is a play on how life is in every sense of both words, beautiful and dangerous. And everyone on earth, you would be lying to you if they said they hadn't experienced something that was so beautiful, and then also something that was dangerous. And by dangerous, I don't mean stepping out into traffic or skydiving.
Right.
I mean falling in love for the first time, or
Yeah.
doing something which it's risky, it's dangerous, but it's so exciting and you're so drawn to it. Yeah, it can also be beautiful. And yeah, it just really made me think about life in a different way, is being shut down from everything, being on the inside looking out, as opposed to the other way around. And it gave everybody nothing but time. Everybody had nothing but time to just do something, like write or do nothing, write music, read, write a book, watch their favorite show back to back, do it all in a day, catch up on work, catch up on, lost time with family. And it made me appreciate things so much more. And that's how the songs came about. A lot of the content is about life being one way or the other, or both at the same time. But yeah, that's pretty much it,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah. No, and that totally makes sense, and it also, on the like the beautiful dangerous, to me, like I think about when I'm in the Midwest, so tornadoes happen. That's a thing, But like honestly, if you step outside after a major storm, especially during the day or whatever, like the colors you get in the sky and all that sort of stuff, it's like this was just so dangerous to be out in,
Yeah,
but holy shit, is it beautiful now?
exactly. And people can take it any which way, which I love. That's what it is. It's almost like a conversation starter. What is so dangerous is also the most beautiful thing in the world. It's anything. It's geez, like I said, it's falling in love for the first time. It's having your heart broken for the first time. It's trying your first cigarette when you're like 15 years old, or you know, getting in trouble with the police for the first time. It's failing school, it's doing well in school, it's everything, man.
Getting
I,
engaged.
exactly, yeah, exactly. It's fun. It's although dare I say that that's not dangerous. I mean, to some people it might be. It's a very beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I get married in a month, actually. A month tomorrow we get married, and I'm
Awesome.
so stoked, very excited.
Yeah.
Definitely not dangerous, but yeah.
No,
Um,
no, not again, not in the sense of stepping in the track or anything like that. And I don't necessarily even mean like that, like fear of rejection entirely, you know, because obviously
yeah,
if you've made it to that point, you're pretty sure that that's what's going to happen. But like the danger in like this is a new chapter in my life. Like
yeah.
my whole story up until this moment has been me, and now
Absolutely.
it's us,
Now it's
and now
us.
we're
Yeah,
moving forward.
yeah, and I think yeah, you're absolutely right. The way, like I said, dangerous is not an actual dangerous activity. It's stepping out into the unknown. You know, it's getting married. It's buying your first place together. It's you know, putting a payment down on your first house. It's all this crazy stuff, and it's yeah, it's exciting. It's thrilling. It's a little nervous, makes you a little, you know, gives you a little butterflies in the stomach, but it's so exciting. It's so beautiful at the same time. But yeah, it's fun, and I've always looked at life that way, as, you know, treat it as one or the other too, or both. You know, there's no harm in that. Do things that scare you. Do things that you love. Do things that you hate, so you can say you've done them and you realize whether it's good or not. You know, go
Yeah.
to a restaurant which has like that's one thing we do sometimes on tour. Is like we'll go to the rated restaurant. That's a hard thing to say.
Yeah, it is.
Worst rated restaurant. Um, but it's, you know, it's just part of the fun. You're in a completely different part of the world. You'll never do it again. You know, you'll never go to that place again, maybe. So just go do something so bizarre and crazy and just have fun. So
Yeah. No, and while you were talking about it, the like TV show that came to mind for Beautiful Dangerous is like Old Crocodile Hunter with Steve Irwin. Like
oh
he
yeah,
always talked about how beautiful these animals are, and they are, but like they're also so dangerous. And it was like he didn't care. Like it was all about the beauty and the education and
that's
this
absolutely right.
new thing of life.
Yeah, that's it. That's absolutely right. It's one of them. It all depends on the person's perspective on how they do things and experience things. It's beautiful, it's dangerous, it's both, it's one or the other. It could be one way and never be the other way, or it could be, you know, a correlation. So
Yeah, and like you said, it's so different for different people, right? Like what you see as dangerous, maybe I don't, or
yeah,
you know what is. I mean, obviously, from a romantic standpoint or a physical standpoint, what some people see as beautiful isn't the same thing to everybody else.
absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
but I think that's what kind of makes life so beautiful. You know what I mean? Like the
Yes.
fact
Yeah.
that there is all this variety and we can all enjoy different things and still be happy, like that, isn't that amazing in itself?
Absolutely. That's all that matters. You know, at the end of the day, it is all that matters. And I think that's just one way I personally have always just tried to look at things. And yeah, I encourage anybody listening to do a similar thing at least. So
Yeah. um so I want to touch on, you kind of already did earlier, but let's say we're going to pick three songs since you already gave away two of them. uh for anyone that's going to get into Heart of Gold, or at least give you a shot as Heart of Gold, what are the three songs that you're like, these are my showcase, this is what you have to see, and you'll know whether or not you're going to like me from here?
okay, okay. I think like previously said, Bright Lights is what I would like to call almost that true Heart of Gold sound. It's got the right taste of influence there from the everything I grew up listening to. Headache is to me one of the funnest songs I've ever written. I've never written anything with a swing beat before, and it's such a it's like swing music is dancing music. You know, you're supposed to throw yourself around and have a great time, and that's what I've always just been so encouraged by with writing music. So Headache is the second one, and then I think an obvious choice would be Over Yourself, because it seems to be the one when people discover Heart of Gold for the first time. It's usually the one, it's sat at the top of Spotify or Apple Music or wherever, and it was the one I had a lot of fun writing as well. It's funny, I was listening to the voice note I had of the very first time I wrote Over Yourself, was about 2019, and it's just a voice note of me playing the guitar, and I'm just going ba da 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 da, and then that became realize, and then it stemmed from that. And I always listen to that sometimes and think anything can come from the smallest idea, and I love that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think those three: Over Yourself, Bright Lights, and Headache. It's hard to pick though, you know, it's
Right.
because I'm proud of everything I've done. I just, if I had, you know, just one opportunity to impress, or three opportunities to impress
Right.
anybody, it would be those three tracks for sure.
Yeah. And the reason I do 3 is it's 10 minutes, right? Like you
Exactly.
can give 10 minutes to check out a band. Here's 3 songs you need to look at.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Yeah. I think, yeah, and it's down to everything. It's putting a live show together. It's like you go to a bar or you go to a venue and you don't know who's playing, but you know, you stick around to check out. You have to make a first impression. So you want to hit them with, you know, the big song that, you know, a lot of artists put their big songs at the end. But if it's like, for me in particular, because I've never played over here before, I'm playing a show soon, and I'm like, I've got to put the big song at the front, because I want everyone's attention from the get-go. Right. So yeah, there's like a weird psychological thing with it, I think. So
yeah, and I think that's something that casual fans, as I put it, casual fans don't understand. I don't know that, I wouldn't say they don't respect it, but like,
yeah.
I don't think they fully understand what goes into setting up a set list, because it's like, especially depending on, are you the opener? Are you the headliner? Like that
Exactly.
varies so much as well. So like if I'm opening, I want to put my catchiest stuff or something that I know is going to hit you in those first 2 songs, because I need to get you right now. If I'm the headliner, it's like, well, you already know I'm going to play them, so I can play all this other stuff.
Exactly.
And we can end on that.
Yeah, exactly. And I've been in both situations where with being as an ocean, we know what our biggest 3 or 4 songs are. So we'll kind of put one towards the beginning, but then we'll save the rest till the very end, because we know, you know, if we can capture them with the rest of the set, then they're going to really enjoy the end of it. But right. With Heart of Gold, it's like, I actually read this weird thing. There's a psychology to it. It's the biggest song in a band's set list is actually the second song, not the first or the last. It's the second, because the first one, you've already determined what you're going to play to get their attention. But right. The second song is where you need to actually keep their attention. So the second song is like probably more important, because it's like, you know, you finish the big song at the beginning and everyone's like, oh my God, this is great. And then you come in with another big song, or, you know, they're going to be like, oh, well, now I've got to stay till the very end. Whereas, you know, if it's not a good second song, they're going to be like, all right, well, that first song was great, but, you know, I got somewhere to be. So,
so I'm going to go grab merch. I'm going to the bathroom, whatever.
Exactly. So it's a funny psychological way of thinking about it. But yeah, the second song is almost key, I think, more, if not as important as the first and the last song. So,
yeah. So I haven't gotten to listen to the new album yet, but I'll hit Jessica up about that later. But for me, it was something I push really heavily, especially on this podcast, or when I send music to a friend and I'm like, hey, you need to check out this band or whatever. Debut albums, I think, are even more paramount in this. How important to you is it that people listen to the album, at least to me, it's the first 2 times, but front to back? like to me, there's a reason that the songs are set up the way that they're set up. Like whether it's a concept album or not, there's a flow to it. So
There
there's a story that's going to be there. So to me, the first two times you listen to it, it's front to back. The first time is kind of what you were just saying, like, okay, I'm kind of gathering where I think the high points are.
yeah.
And then the second time you can dig in and be like, what's he talking about? Like
Yeah.
what is
Yeah.
this? You know, how
Yeah.
important do you feel like that is, especially with your debut coming out?
Oh, I mean, the goal for any artist is to have the new fans and old fans, but listen to something you've put out front to back, and always just keep, keep it on repeat, keep looping it. I wish the album as itself, the whole record. I don't want to say that it's like, a lot of artists do conceptual albums where it's a journey. It's
Right.
like, here's the start point. Track 2 is a tale from track 1, and it's a continued story, and it's a beginning, a middle, and end. It's not as deep as that in a way, but each song is its own story, I think. And I think if you listen through it one time and just like, don't you don't have to fully pay attention to it, because the first time anyone listens to anything, they're not going to focus on the lyrics straight away. They're more going to focus on whether it's a good song or not, and
Right.
that's everything. That's the lyrics are probably could be one of the last things. It could be, this is catchy, this is great, that's a cool guitar part, that drum beat's great, this, that, whatever. So by all means, just give it a run through once. It's 45 minutes or so. It's nothing. It's make a pot of coffee, have a cup, and just put it on and enjoy it. And then if you want to do it straight away, great. If not, give it a couple hours, give it a day, come back and just really pay attention to like what's being said, and why it, like, certain songs sound the way they do. Because every single song has been thought out. Every single song was like, you know months in the making, different sounds, different tones, all for a reason. Like we were talking about soundtracks,
Right.
it's there for a reason. And I think people are going to have favorite songs, and I hope they have favorite songs on there. But the people who I've played it to, I've played it to like a select small few, like a group of people. Almost all of them came back with a very different song that they said was their favorite. Some people came back with the one which is my, I don't want to say least favorite, but not the
Right.
one I would put in my top 3 or 5. But to them, they were like, this is probably the best thing you've ever written. I'm like, wow, that's like, I like it. I love that song, but it's definitely not where I thought it was going to be on the poll of songs. So yeah, just give it 2 or 3 full spins, but just give yourself a little bit more to it
Right.
the second and third time. First time, just put it on in the background if you want, and if you like it, your ears will perk up, and you'll be like, okay, I'm going to come back to track 6 or track 7 or whatever. And so yeah, I think give
No.
it 2-3 times.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of like my day job is an office job. So I've got like my AirPods in and all that all day.
There you go.
And I'm
Yeah,
the same way. Like it's just background noise most of the time. But
yeah,
like you said, I'll be listening to Release Radar or whatever. And all of a sudden I'm like, well, hold on, who is that song? And I have to go
yeah.
over and like actually look because it caught my attention. And
It,
I
I,
think that's a very powerful way to listen to an album the first way.
absolutely. I did exactly the same thing. I put release radar, or new hits, new pop hits, or
Right.
I'll find an artist that I do like and I am, like devoted to listening to, and I'll put, Spotify does a thing called artist radio, where
Mm-hmm.
they'll make a radio station for you based on what they think your interest would be. Usually it's like pretty on the mark. Sometimes it doesn't really land.
Yeah.
But it happened to me a couple of days ago. I was like, I think I was driving back from LA, and this song came on, and I was like, wait, hang on a minute. This is like really good. Why have I never heard this before? To the point where I'm like, I put the song on pause and I'm looking at it and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna wait till I get to a red light, and then I'm gonna like, take a picture of it quickly, or put, heart it, so I can go
Right.
home and I can sit at my studio desk and I can just turn it all the way up and be like, God, this is, yeah. So it's funny. It starts, music does start off as background noise. Essentially, that's how
Yeah.
songs get discovered. Bands, you go to watch your favorite band play at a club, the support band, you could leave with the support band being your favorite band ever, because you went there, and it's almost going to be it's background noise while you wait for your favorite artist to come on. And I think that's the beautiful thing about music, is it can just do that to you. So
Yeah, for sure. And that's, I'm glad you brought that up about like going to a show as well, because I am such a stickler about, and maybe it's because I'm a music journalist and a concert photographer and all that, but like I've got friends that are like, oh, we're going to go see this show. Doors open at 6. We're going to get there about 7:30. That'll be good for,
the
headliner or whoever. And I'm like, man, fuck you. Like
yeah,
these opening bands
yeah,
are busting their ass to get out there and be
definitely.
noticed. Like give them some respect.
Yeah, that you're absolutely right. We so a funny story with the Being as an Ocean tour we just did in January. A couple days into the tour, the second band unfortunately had to drop off due to an injury. So a lot of the venues that were coming up were like, "Oh, we'll just push the door time," and we were like, "Actually, no. If you leave the doors at 6 p.m., but then instead of having the first band come on at 6:30, leave it that extra 30, 45 minutes, because then more people will come in and see the
Right.
first band, which is what we want, because that, like you said, the first band, they're like, they were picked to go on that tour for a reason, usually by the headline band, because they're an amazing band. They have an incredible live show, incredible crowd presence. So what you want for them is for there to be a crowd to play in front of. So yeah, I think, like you said, man, yeah, just always encourage people, if you're going to go to a show, please go to the whole thing, because you could come away thinking, wow, okay, I don't even need to see the headliner right now. That I was just blown away by that. I mean, that
Yeah.
probably will never happen, but
I
it's
don't know,
nice
man.
to
Like,
think.
especially like in pop punk hardcore shows, the smaller clubs, whatever. You think about it, the cost of a ticket, maybe $30, give or take, depending on your area.
Yeah,
It's easy to get $30 worth of your money back out of those first two bands.
exactly.
And I know I've been to several as a journalist and even just as a fan where I'm like, okay, I've never heard of the opener, but obviously I get there early. And then I'm like, oh shit, like that was
It's great.
cool. Like I'm gonna,
Yeah,
put them on my Spotify or whatever so that I can check out more.
dude,
And
yeah,
I've found some awesome bands through that.
that's how it works. That's, like I said, they get picked for a reason. They have a team of people really working hard for them to get those tours, because everyone in the team thinks they'll be the best fit for it, and they think it'll be a great response from the headliners crowd.
Right.
So yeah, you're absolutely right. That's the best way to do it. Just
Yeah.
always show up. So
Yeah. So on kind of that topic, as we, start to wrap up here, for Heart of Gold, who are some bands that are like dream tour setup for you, whether you're opening or headlining?
oh man, I think a big obvious one would be somebody like the 1975.
Yeah.
Because I think they did a very, very smart thing about 7, 8 years ago, is they kind of pushed that boundary of, we can release music that sounds like it's from a completely different era, a completely different decade, and it starts to pique interest, and it starts to, you will see a million artists come out the woodwork who have already been doing that sound for so long, but they've almost been afraid to put that music out, or it hasn't gained the right attention. So for a band like the 1975, who just blew up, I think really did wonders for people who make that kind of, you call it bedroom pop, because a lot of
Right.
it is bedroom pop, or that kind of, you make it in your bedroom, and you have that freedom to just push boundaries with it. So a dream tour obviously would be the 1975, but there's a million artists that I've discovered because of that, who I think would be just such a dream to tour with. Japanese House is a great one. A band called Wet. I don't know if you heard of them. Wet,
Yeah. Yeah.
amazing band. The most beautiful voice I've ever heard. She's incredible. Churches. Goodness, I was supposed to do this tour, but God, the pandemic shut it down. With Grayscale, the
Yeah.
pop punk band from Philly, amazing band, incredible new record as well. And it would have been such a great tour, but yeah, unfortunately the pandemic just decided to cancel it. So yeah, there's a million great
Yeah.
artists. Yeah, it'd be a hard choice. I could give a list as long as my arm
Right.
of anyone, you know. And it's what's funny is I love the, like we were saying about how welcoming and how, you know, adaptable the genre is. You could go on tour with kind of anybody these days, and you know,
Yeah.
movements are with Knock Loose right now.
Right.
It's almost like an indie pop new wave band going out with a hardcore band. And like, it's bizarre to a lot of people, but you will see the Knock Loose crowd singing every word to a movement song. And I love that. So I think I could go out with anybody and have a great time and just, you know, do my best to win these people over, or they could just, you know, hate it. And that's
And that's fine too, you know. I mean,
fine.
obviously we all have our different tastes, but I think you're right, you know, and I think again, if there was anything positive from the pandemic, it is this acceptance. And I think the genre fusion tours, if you will, where it's a hardcore band, a indie pop, whatever,
Yeah,
all these, like, when you look at it on the card, you're like, these don't go together. Like, this
yeah,
isn't right. But then you go to the show and you're like, no, that was cool. Like, that fit, that hit everything I needed.
that was it. And a perfect example that I always love to give to people is Being as an Ocean, which is like melodic, emo, hardcore. We did possibly my favorite ever tour we've done ever with Thy Art is Murder. And it
Yeah.
was just, you know, and it was in Europe, and it was Miss May I and Casey, an amazing UK band not around anymore, but Casey, it was Casey, Miss May I, us, Thy Art, and we rotated every night. And you could see who were the obvious Thy Art is Murder fans, but they knew some of our songs, which was great. And then there was the Being as an Ocean fans who were so into how just visually and amazing and how great it sounded Thy Art is Murder were. So I always use that as an example of, you can put anything together and it can work. Nothing
Right.
is impossible with that. So yeah, I love genre bending tours. I think Warped Tour, great example, you know.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
got
And that's
Paris.
right before you jumped on. That's what Jessica and I were talking about, is like
Oh
how
wow.
much we miss Warp Tour.
Yeah.
And then they did the When We Were Young tour, or festival that just popped up. Like, that is as close to Warp Tour as we've gotten.
Yeah.
But if you look at the lineup, you're like, man, so many of these bands don't really belong,
No,
but they're welcome. And that's what's fucking cool.
that's
Like, I
so
remember, yeah, I remember Warp Tour way back in the day. Like, I saw Katy Perry on Warp Tour. Like, what the
yes.
fuck is this?
Yes, exactly, exactly. And we did it in 2015, and it was Paris and Attila going, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
one after the other every night, and it's like so fun. But the crowd never moved. You know, you
Right.
had the Paris crowd sticking around for Attila because, you know, they want to discover something new, and that was the brilliant thing about these touring festivals, is that there is always something for everybody, and everybody will come home discovering somebody new, a new artist or a new genre that they would never in a million years ever decide to listen to, but they were drawn to it at a festival. And that's the beauty of this industry, this scene. You know,
Yeah.
it gets bashed a lot, but it is very, very inclusive, and it's very um, beautiful in that way.
Yeah.
So
I really think it's typically, obviously, the outsiders that bash this side of
it
the
is.
industry and scene, because from their vantage point, they look at it and they're like, oh, they wear all black, they, you know, they dye their hair, they,
Yeah,
and it's like, yeah, but just because you wouldn't talk to that dude doesn't mean that he hasn't been through just as much shit as you have. Like,
exactly.
we're all fucking human beings.
Exactly. That's the one genre people need to focus on, is being a fucking decent human being. And they
Yeah.
can enjoy that. Everyone can enjoy that, then everyone will be fine. You know,
Yeah.
that's what everybody is at the end of the day. So why not, you know?
Absolutely. Have enjoyed the conversation so much. I'm obviously going to link all your socials and everything, but
Amazing.
where can people find you? What can they expect from you online, and any kind of parting words as we get ready for your new single to drop, and kind of the album?
Oh yeah. So everything is so Instagram, TikTok, which I'm slowly trying to figure out, is this is Heart of Gold. So at this is Heart of Gold. That's where usually everything gets bumped straight away. Is Instagram, I think, is just like the biggest thing on earth right now. So yeah, everything you want to know or that will be announced over time, tour dates, new songs, videos, everything, the new record, everything to do with the record will go straight to social media there. So, and anything else like Facebook and Twitter, that's all linked on Instagram too. So Instagram will be the main hub, and that's just at this is Heart of Gold. So.
Man, I super appreciate your time. I'm gonna try to get this up. Let me look at the calendar here. I am going to bump you into kind of a special bonus episode. So I'm going to have this go live on this Friday. So
Amazing.
the day after the single technically comes out.
Perfect.
But, you know, I'm so excited about this conversation and what your project is, because again, I just don't think enough people, this genre is very accepting of it, but I don't think enough people are looking at artists like yourself that are coming out of these, not that you're leaving being as an ocean at all, but like you're coming out of that to some extent and going, look at what else I can offer. And there's so much depth to it.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, you'll start to see people who, like I said, only listen to, on the surface, only listen to hardcore or heavy music. You'll start to see like, oh wow, actually, you know, these people do also enjoy pop music and you know, different genres. So it's yeah, I just love being able to do it. I'm having the best time. I'm having such a fun time. This has been my baby for so long, and the fact that it is gaining some kind of momentum to me is the icing on the cake. It's the bonus that I could have never dreamed of, because I've just always been anything I can do to have a fun time writing music, I've always wanted to do. So that's just how I need to do it. So yeah, I'm very stoked for what the future holds for sure. So
And again, I appreciate it, and we'll definitely be in touch and hope to see you out on tour soon so that we can maybe do one of these in person, not in a bathtub, because that's fucking weird. But
I would love to. I would love to. Yeah, whatever you need, man. I'm always down. Yeah. So
awesome.
thank you so much, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh yeah.
All right. See you, man.
See you. Take it easy. Bye bye.